So this is it. Started back on November 1st, 2021 after my 2-week Halloween or horror-themed Fallout posts, I started the Vault series. Beginning with a brief introduction of Vault-Tec, the Enclave, and Project Safehouse, I then began making short videos on every Fallout Vault that has ever appeared in any Fallout licensed media. This included the 6 canon games, cancelled games, non-canon games, and promotional content like comics or the board games. And today, that journey comes to an end, for now. I'm sure in Fallout 5 there will be more vaults for me to cover, and I'll still be posting Fallout lore videos here, and some maybe even about vaults. But the Vault series itself is coming to a close with the release of this video. So without further ado, this is every Fallout licensed vault, explained in 60 seconds or less. To start, let's give a bit of an overview into the creators of the Vault project, Vault-Tec. It's plain to even the most casual Fallout player that Vault-Tec's nuclear shelters had more going on than they would like to admit. The Euro-Middle Eastern War, the New Plague, and the collapse of the United Nations incited nationwide panic. In response, the government started Project Safehouse in 2054. Vault-Tec won the bid for the contract and began construction on 122 shelters nationwide. A notable concession was made in the bid that allowed Vault-Tec's private security to ensure safety during operation. Despite the corruption and extreme costs, Vault-Tec was able to make several technological breakthroughs. These allowed most of the vaults to be done construction 9 years after project launch. Even if a nuclear war didn't happen, Vault-Tec planned to use the shelters to test new technology. Soon, a splinter of the government, now known as the Enclave, secretly took over Project Safehouse and repurposed the vaults for their societal preservation program. Of the 122 vaults, 17 would remain as control vaults, while the rest were subject to odd and mysterious trials. On October 23, 2077, the air raid sirens blared, and the Cry Wolf effect ensured most vaults began their trials with a fraction of the intended population. Over the next few decades, many vaults would fail, but those that survived would often prosper. First Vault, Vault Zero. Intended to be a central hub for the Vault network, Vault Zero can be found in the non-canon strategy game Fallout Tactics. It was constructed as an expansion to the real-life Cheyenne Mountain complex in Colorado. Its appearance and design are unique from any other vault. The vault would house the United States' greatest pre-war geniuses, leaders, and artists. They would be suspended in cryostasis, and their brains would be extracted and hooked up to a supercomputer called the Calculator. The Calculator's purpose was to form an ideal society outside of the vault through educating the survivors. However, budget cuts led to several important systems being removed. This eventually led to the Calculator becoming corrupted. The computer's corruption resulted in 63% of Vault Zero's population to perish and 15% to suffer severe brain damage. Included in the deaths were the only 2 people capable of repairing the Calculator. Restricted by programming and lacking any artificial intelligence, the Calculator initiated its pacification protocol with the sole purpose of exterminating all life. Black Isle Studios, before the team was laid off, were working on a third Fallout game. It was codenamed Van Buren. A tech demo for this game was leaked 4 years after its cancellation. In the tech demo, you're being escorted by a US military corporal to Vault 1. There, you meet Frank the Underseer, who's in charge until the Overseer arrives. He's off to a bad start, and you help Frank turn on the life support systems. And that's about it for Van Buren gameplay. We don't learn much else about Vault 1. It was likely a control vault, but we'll never be sure. As a fun fact, because the project lead for New Vegas was also one of the lead designers on Van Buren, some of the lore and ideas from Van Buren were implemented in New Vegas. These included things like Joshua Graham, the Hoover Dam, and the NCR Brotherhood of Steel Conflicts. In Fallout 76, you can find a holotape game called Wastelad. In it, you play as Wastelad, a member of Vault 1. After hearing that Chairman Chang was responsible for nuclear war, Wastelad leaves Vault 1 to hunt the military leader. The only detail I can find about this vault is that it's inhabited by many red-blooded patriots of all shapes and sizes. As for Vault 2, during Wastelad you must pass through a cliff, and the only way is through Vault 2. For the Overseer to allow you through, you bring him a pristine sports jersey. It likely either housed sports fanatics, athletes, or local sports teams, but that's just speculation. Maybe only the Overseer was a nutter about the sports team, or about sports in general. The first canon and non-virtual vault that appears in the list is Vault 3. By that I mean Vaults 1 and 2 appear in Wastelad, a video game, and Vault 0 and 1 are in non-canon games. It is one of 7 known vaults constructed in the Mojave. It's located in the South Vegas ruins. Vault 3 was the pristine control vault. Unlike most vaults, the effects of isolation didn't negatively impact the dwellers. They maintained an orderly, democratic society for generations. Not one overseer was a tyrant, which, as we'll find out, can't be said for most vaults. However, a water leak forced the residents to open their small society to the rest of the world to find help. They managed to set up trade with others, and integration into post-vault life seemed to be going well. But their naivety and inexperience in the new world got the better of them. A fiend named Motorrunner and his gang managed to con their way into the vault. Noticing the dwellers lacked any sort of defense, they slaughtered the inhabitants and made the vault their own drug den. Since then, the fiends have become a nuisance for the NCR, as their headquarters, Camp McCarran, is a mere stone's throw away. So we skip Vault 4 and 5. These have never appeared in any official Fallout media as of yet. That means we're on to Vault 6. Now you might be saying, but Nort, Vault 6 doesn't appear in any official Fallout media either. And to that I say, what? You don't remember the cancelled squad-based first and third-person tactical video game, Fallout Extreme? But for real, I've never heard of this game before today. Or, I guess before since I made the original video, which makes sense because it was cancelled in November 2000. In it, the Brotherhood of Steel is aggressively expanding their territory, and if you're an unlucky soul to come across them, you are either killed or forcefully conscripted to the front lines of their battles. The player would command a squad of revolutionaries called the Cause. You'd gradually fight back against Brotherhood control, yada yada. Let's get back on track. Vault 6. The first chapter of Fallout Extreme took place in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. One of the first bases attacked by the Cause would be Mount St. Helens. Inside the mountain, you would find Vault 6. The experiment was that they allowed a very small amount of radiation into the shelter. Over time, this led to all the dwellers to turn into extremely irradiated, aggressive feral ghouls, likely glowing ones. In hindsight, I bet they feel pretty stupid for this experiment, as post-war America has plenty of feral ghouls without killing a bunch of dwellers that could have been used for literally anything else. Looking back through this series, a lot of experiments were failures, and the purpose will likely always be a mystery. Did you know Fallout has a licensed tabletop game? They have a couple actually. Fallout Wasteland Warfare, Fallout Shelter the board game, Fallout the role-playing game, and the subject of today, Fallout the board game. You and up to 3 other friends compete or work together to gain influence in the Wastes. You do this by completing random quests and encounters as you play. You play as an adventurer, like a Vault Dweller or an Enclave Deserter in one of 5 scenarios. Anyway, the game has these random tiles that make up the map and the playing board. In the game's New California expansion, one of these tiles is Lucky Vault 7. Like the 3 other vaults that appear in the board game, depending on the scenario, Vault 7 is either located in New California, the Capital Wasteland, the Commonwealth, the Pit, or Far Harbor. Vault 7 is inside of a lake. When the door opens, the water pulls you into the pitch blackness of the vault, trapping you there. As the current pulls you around, you can encounter a few different things. Many of these are creature encounters, others are rooms filled with bottles of Nuka-Cola, a room with a cryolator, or a room with a terminal and an air pocket. To access the terminal, you put your arms through 2 long tubes. Through this terminal, you discover that the vault was assigned no dwellers or overseer, but the vault does record information on those who have managed to enter. You even find a data entry on yourself. Failing some checks when trying to access the records can either inject you with FEV, turning you into a super mutant, or unleash the vault's guardian. When you defeat the guardian, the water in the vault drains, and you are rewarded with the vault security armor. Another control vault appears in this series as Vault 8. Located in northern Nevada, Vault 8 was designed to have 2 Garden of Eden creation kits, or GECKs, stored in the vault. In fact, according to Vault-Tec's standard vault inventory package, every vault was meant to have 2 GECKs. Due to some logistical errors, a mix-up between Vault 8 and Vault 13 occurred. Vault 13 got the extra GECK, and Vault 8 got hundreds of water chips. This error didn't set them far back at all, and the spare water chips ensured that the vault would thrive for its entire duration, despite their original chip never needing a replacement. Vault 8 was set to open in 2087, 10 years after the Great War. They received several all-clear signs from their environmental surface sensors, some as early as 2 years after the bombs dropped. Despite not being able to communicate with the outside world, many vaults had one-way communication with the Enclave. The Enclave could access terminals in each vault and upload or download information about the dwellers, data from their experiments, or alter the results from environmental surface scanners too. Despite these all-clears, Vault 8 waited until 2091 before finally opening. Using the lone GECK and the power from their generators, they managed to set up a settlement known as Vault City, but that's for another video that I still haven't covered yet. As we get into more cut content, don't be surprised if some videos end up shorter. There's not a lot of info on them, but technically they still appear in Fallout licensed media, but it would feel disingenuous to omit them from this series. This vault is one of those. Vault 10 makes an appearance in the concept art book titled The Art of Fallout 4. And that's it. Yep, this is all we know of Vault 10. It's very possible Vault 10 was never going to be in Fallout 4, and this was just an example concept for vault suits. I apologize if this was troll, but I thought it was worth a mention. One of the more interesting experiments in the Societal Preservation Program was the one conducted in Vault 11. Vault 11 is located south of the 188 trading post in the Mojave Wasteland. The inhabitants were told that each year they must sacrifice one of their fellow dwellers, or else the vault computer would eliminate everyone. A deadly computer? Sounds like someone we've met before. The original overseer was aware of Vault-Tec's demands, but didn't share this information before sealing the vault. In response, the enraged dwellers used the overseer as the first sacrifice. From then on, to decide the next sacrifice, the vault held yearly democratic elections for the overseer position, except in this case you didn't want to win, because at the end of the overseer's term, they would enter the kill chamber. The elections led to the formation of 6 voting blocks to influence the elections. Eventually, the voting process was dissolved by elected overseer Catherine Stone after a series of horrible events that remind me of the 2017 movie Revenge. The Justice Bloc, unhappy with their loss of power, staged an armed coup that led to the deaths of nearly all remaining dwellers. With only 5 dwellers left and not willing to sacrifice another, they would wait for the vault's wrath. Instead, they were met with a congratulatory message praising them for their commitment to human life. The fate of the remaining dwellers can be heard in an audio log: 4 gunshots and 1 heavy sigh. Located under the busy metropolis of Bakersfield, California, Vault 12 was slated to have every amenity for the prospective vault dweller. Unfortunately, the amenities didn't include a functioning vault door. Like Vault 6 in the cancelled Fallout Extreme game, the purpose of this vault's experiment was to test the effects of radiation on the human body. Vault-Tec decided the best way to do this was to ensure the vault door could never fully seal, allowing heaps of radiation from a potential nuclear war into the vault. Well, on October 23rd, the nuclear war began. The people of Bakersfield learned that the other vaults had sealed, and so even people not on the original vault population list forced their way in, hoping to find safety. And just like Vault-Tec planned, there was no safety to be found. Radiation poured into the open vault door, and many dwellers were killed outright from the exposure. Those that survived turned ghoul. 6 years later, in 2083, some of the dwellers left the shelter, ready to explore the wastes. Those who chose to stay found the city of Necropolis, but that's also for another video. Vault 13 is an iconic vault as it housed one of the 6 most influential people to the wastes, the Vault Dweller. Vault 13 even predates Fallout as a franchise, as the original title for the game was Vault 13, a GURPS post-nuclear adventure. Vault 13 was technically a control vault, only designated to open when the Enclave needed the dwellers. Whether this prolonged isolation is an experiment itself is up for debate. Sometime before the first game begins, the vault's only water chip starts to malfunction, and Overseer Jacorin sends the protagonist into the wastes. There, the Vault Dweller comes across a city called Necropolis, and inside its vault finds a spare water chip. Jacorin hears of the Dweller's horrifying depictions of the wastes, and tasks him with stopping the source of FEV mutants. The Dweller succeeds, defeating the Master and the Unity. Upon return to the vault, Jacorin exiles the Vault Dweller, claiming that the others would want to leave too. Eventually, Jacorin commits a crime and is executed, and Vault 13, despite electing a new leader, would refrain from using the Overseer title. Instead, they built a computer that would handle all the vault controls. The new leader allowed people to leave if they wanted. The Vault Dweller took these people, and they formed the tribal village of Arroyo. In May 2241, the Enclave declared it was time to leave Vault 13. The Dwellers were met with force and kidnapped. The Enclave deployed intelligent Deathclaws to monitor and kill those who wandered too close to the vault. The Deathclaws ignored their orders and instead took residency inside the vault and would allow humans peace and comfort inside as well. Sometime before the finale of Fallout 2, Vault 13, Deathclaws and all, would be massacred by Enclave super soldier Frank Horrigan. Vault 15 features another interesting social experiment and is crucial to the story of how New California came to be. Only members of radically diverse ideologies and cultures would be granted the safety of the vault. Set to be closed for 50 years, Vault-Tec was curious about how the small society would function. There's a bit of conflicting information on what exactly happened in the vault and when it opened. From what I gather, the vault was suffering from internal strife and overpopulation. This led to the creation of 4-ish distinct factions. In 2097, 20 years after the vault sealed, nearly all the dwellers left, stripping the vault of the most important parts. A handful of dwellers stayed behind. The most significant faction took the GEC and created Shady Sands, the eventual NCR capital. The other 3 factions became raider tribes. the Khans, Jackals, and Vipers. Those who stayed behind were eventually attacked and sought refuge in Shady Sands. In 2161, while searching for a replacement to the water chip, the Vault Dweller would come across Vault 15, but their water chip was under tons of rubble. In 2241, the Chosen One would settle a land dispute between the NCR and squatters over Vault 15. This vault is also another short one, as Vault 17 is only mentioned in Fallout New Vegas. That being said, I think with the little amount of info that we do know about it, it's still pretty crucial to the Fallout universe. Not to mention it's quite a reference for fans of the original. Anyway, the primary mutant threat in Fallout comes from a former Vault 8 exile, Richard Moreau, who mistakenly traveled to the Mariposa military base, where he would be knocked into a vat of FEV and become the mutated mass known as the Master. The Master would kidnap unirradiated humans, expose them to the virus, and create a super mutant army called the Unity. It's a bit of a lame name, to be honest. Anywho, Vault 17 was one location raided by the Unity. The only known inhabitants, I'm certain there were plenty more, are Lily Bowen and her two grandchildren, Jimmy and Becky. They were taken back to the military base, where they were exposed to FEV, Lily becoming a Nightkin. And that's all we know about Vault 17. Oh, and not to mention another jumpsuit booty. Can't forget to mention that.
Vault 19 has a bit of a mystery tied to it, and for that I think it's pretty neat. The premise was that the dwellers were split into two sectors, red and blue, each with its own overseer too. The point was to induce paranoia and hysteria through non-chemical and non-violent methods. There's some debate surrounding how this was done. Some children claim they heard high-pitched noises. Journal entries confirm the strange noises but also had weird drafts coming from the vents and weird patterns, similar to a code, in the lights. I should note that the New Vegas game guide mentions that the vault had a sulfur gas leak in the air systems and caused some anxiety as well. The sectors blamed each other for the strange happenings, while the true perpetrators were the overseers themselves, under the direction of Vault-Tec. Here's where the mystery I mentioned earlier comes in. Patient files note that some were experiencing psychosis or aggression, and that the doctor was unaware of the cause. It's hard to distinguish whether the doctor is genuinely oblivious or is an accomplice to the overseer's doings, because the patient logs come from people who are extremely on edge and paranoid. Anyway, by the time the Powder Gangers make it their home, the vault was abandoned, the fate of the dwellers unknown. Located under the New Vegas Strip, Vault 21 had a very on-brand experiment. It operated as any control vault would, accommodations were fair and modest, and everyone was considered equal. The only hiccup that made it not a control vault was that any conflict would be decided through gambling. Representatives would gamble against each other, and the winner would have the ability to settle disputes as they so desired. Sarah Weintraub described it as pure New Vegas. 7 years before the start in New Vegas, when Mr. House started his renovation of the Strip, he offered the residents of the vault a place in the city's future. Many dwellers refused. Those who agreed with House challenged the ones who wanted to stay isolated, and as per Vault 21 custom, a grueling game of blackjack would be the deciding factor. After many hours, House supporters won after a risky gambit, and so, after nearly 200 years of isolation, Vault 21's doors would be open forever. Many dwellers, feeling evicted from their homes, started new lives in the Mojave. Mr. House stripped the vault of its technology and filled the barren lower levels with concrete and converted the remains of Vault 21 to a hotel casino, where it still operates today. Vault 22 was actually in operation before the Great War. It served as a laboratory for agriculture scientists who were trying to greatly improve crop yield to combat world hunger. Post-war, their objective remained the same. While the vault did house non-scientists too, everyone selected for the vault had to be environmentally conscientious. During one of the experiments on Bovaria mordicana, a fungus for pest control, it became airborne and infected the vault's population. Several inhabitants became sick, and the doctors couldn't identify the cause. The first fatality was Dr. Harrison Peters, whose corpse shockingly reanimated. This led to the attempted extermination of all the ill by trapping them and igniting a flammable gas. However, it's believed that the gas triggered a defense mechanism in the slumbering husks and caused them to attack the scientists. In 2096, the 100 or so that could escape entered the Zion Canyon armed to the teeth, trying to escape the illness. They captured the women and children of a group just trying to get by. Before survivalist Randall Clark could initiate a rescue attempt, the dwellers cannibalized the captees. This would be the start of Randall's nearly year-long quest of hunting down the remnants of the dwellers. For almost 200 years, not one soul would step into the vault until one NCR scientist would come looking for data to help stave off the upcoming projected famine. A definite contender for Fallout Vault with the least amount of information, Vault 24 only appears in Fallout New Vegas' game files.
With other vaults with a little information, like Vault 10 or Vault 17, there's at least some room to speculate on what was going on. Like Vault 10 appeared in the concept art book, The Art of Fallout 4, or with Vault 17 we know that Lily Bowen is from there, and she doesn't mention any strange experiments outside of her abduction by the Master, so perhaps it was a control vault. But with Vault 24, despite a vault suit appearing in the game files, was confirmed by New Vegas game designer Josh Sawyer to never actually appear in game. He speculates that the reason the suit made an appearance may have been for Sarah Weintraub's quest, Vtu Sarah. I should note that the New Vegas game files have plenty of weirder things than a random vault jumpsuit. For example, approximately 230 things from Fallout 3, including the super mutant companion Fox, appear in the New Vegas game files. This was likely because the engine that New Vegas ran on was also the same engine from Fallout 3. So essentially the New Vegas game designers just took the textures and the assets and then made New Vegas with them. That's why this would be there. I only mention this because these are just things that weren't eventually deleted for optimization purposes. Another vault with little information is Vault 27, but we do have some wiggle room for speculation. I've mentioned the Fallout Bible before, but I'll go over it again. In 2002, Black Isle Studios game designer Chris Avallone, who worked on Fallout 2, Van Buren, and Fallout New Vegas, released a series of documents titled the Fallout Bible. It provided a bunch of background information about the lore of Fallout, specifically Fallout 1 and 2, as those were the only games released at the time. It was to serve as a way to consolidate information for the upcoming Van Buren title, but as the game was cancelled and Bethesda took over the IP, all of it is considered non-canon. But that doesn't matter to us, as this series is covering all the vaults, canon or not, that appear in any Fallout licensed media. And with that, here's all the information I have on Vault 27, word for word from the Fallout Bible. This vault would be overcrowded deliberately, 2,000 people would be signed to enter, double the total sustainable amount. The location of this vault is unknown. Pretty neat concept actually, I think, but we know that Vault-Tec ran a boatload of test drills, so it's very unlikely that with the Cry Wolf effect, it would have reached the 2,000 population threshold. Even still, as long as it got to at least 1,000, then I'm sure it would have been interesting to see how it played out. Although confirmed to be canon by a holotape in Fallout 76, there's not a lot of reliable information on Vault 29. The last day of school holotape is of a disappointed Vault-Tec University student who mentions that she can't find a good job, and at this rate she'll be shipped out to the West Coast to work as a janitor in 29 with a bunch of obnoxious rich teenagers. And that's all the canon info we have on Vault 29. But if we fudge a bunch of other sources together, we can kind of figure out what was going on. So starting with Fallout 1, Harold the kind-hearted mutant grew up in a vault. He doesn't mention which specifically though. However, in the Fallout Bible, it's stated that Harold is believed to have come from Vault 29. It also mentions that the experiment was that the vault would only house those younger than 16, which aligns with the 76 holotape and Harold's age at the time of the Great War. The rest of the info comes from the cancelled Van Buren game, and it gets kinda wacky. A Zax supercomputer, like the calculator, was to control the vault. A robobrain named Diana took over the supercomputer and decided to raise the children herself. Meanwhile, her robot workers were also building the Twin Mothers Village. When the vault door opened, the village was ready to accept the dwellers who wished to stay or bid farewell to those who didn't. My goal with this video is to be as thorough as possible while also keeping each vault at a minute or less. So to stay true to being thorough, the next vault is Vault 31 from Bethesda's mobile game Fallout Shelter. This vault was a multi-stage limited time questline for Halloween. You get the first quest, Halloween Nonfiction, and it mentions that Vault 31's strange past is being told again, and it's up to you to solve the mystery of Vault 31. Don't get too excited though. You and some dwellers travel to the ruined library and meet the caretaker of the library who tells you to find Herb Vest at the old candy factory. Before you depart, he gives you his ghost costume. At the candy factory, Herb Vest tells you that anyone who goes near the vault disappears, and directs you to the local Vault-Tec offices for more info. There, you meet a traveler who reveals the mystery. It's not actually haunted, but a band of raiders spread the rumor to keep people away. You then go to the old costume factory, and encounter some talkative ghouls who may let you pass without conflict. Beyond them are the ghost costumes you were looking for. You plan to scare the raiders from the vault, you don the costumes, and you give your scariest boo. And that's it. The mystery of Vault 31 solved. Okay, I'm gonna make this one quick, as to not waste anyone's time. Vault 33, 41, 66, 99, 103, 107, and 113 all appear in the 2016 game Bethesda Pinball. Before doing research for this video, I didn't know that this game even existed. Your goal is to collect the special bobbleheads from each of the mentioned vaults. The last pinball game I played was either 3D Pinball Space Cadet or Pokemon Pinball for the Game Boy Color. And that's all I got on these vaults. Oh, and another jumpsuit booty. Okay, thanks. Vault 34 had some questionable design decisions. The experiment was that the armory would be overstocked with weapons and ammo. I guess the reason was to see how society would operate when everyone has a weapon. In addition to the arms, the vault traded living space for additional recreational facilities, including a full-size swimming pool. The vault lived in relative peace for over 150 years with their gun-focused culture. This changed in 2231, when trying to avoid gun-related incidents, the overseer installed a lock on the armory. When a group of residents demanded the firepower, stating that they have a right to defend themselves, the overseer denied their request. This led to riots and an attack on the armory. The future boomers secured many of the explosives and heavy weapons. While fighting their way out of the vault, they damaged the reactor. The rioters would go on to inhabit Nellis Air Force Base and live an isolated lifestyle until a certain courier shows up. Those left in the vault would begin experiencing the effects of radiation poisoning. Some lucky few managed to flee to the southern section of the vault and seal the doors, keeping them safe, while committing the rest of their fellow dwellers to eventual ghoulification. I know we've seen a couple vaults from the Fallout Bible, and we have a couple more to go, but fair warning, Black Isle Studios had some wacko ideas for vaults in there. We don't get another canon vault for another 6 entries, so please bear with me as we venture through the small amount of lore Vault 36 has. Another entry from the vault list of the Fallout Bible, Vault 36 made use of food dispensers that would only serve a thin, watery gruel. Reading this makes me think of that one tweet to Gordon Ramsay about a flooded burger. Just the combinations of the words thin, watery, and gruel grosses me out. Of all the atrocities the Enclave and Vault-Tec committed, this must be up there as one of its worst. At the time when I made the Vault 39 video, I had yet to talk about the game Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. The first time I mentioned that game on my channel, on my page, was for a random vault and its cancelled sequel, Fallout Brotherhood of Steel 2, or Phobos 2, which is this vault, Vault 39. Fallout Brotherhood of Steel was an action RPG where you play as one of 3 Brotherhood of Steel initiates. It was the 4th Fallout game, 2nd spin-off game, and 1st Fallout game released on the PS2 and Xbox home consoles. It was the last Fallout title before Interplay sold the franchise to Bethesda Softworks. Phobos 2 was nearly complete before Interplay laid off most of its staff in 2004. Because it was nearly complete, we have a decent amount of info on Vault 39. Located in Abilene, Texas, Vault 39's experiment was unknown. However, after it had already been abandoned, the main antagonist of the game, Reese, was performing experiments on the vault. These experiments led to a similar result to those at Vault 22. The Lone Star Vault was now infested with massive, mutated plants. Exploring the vault, the player character would discover Reese's next movements and take an actual working car to Austin, ending Act 2 of the game. Alright folks, I warned you. The Fallout Bible has some serious sick stuff in it for the vault experiments, but here you are anyway. Vault 42's experiment was that all the light bulbs were no more than 40 watts. Now, I'm not a lighting expert at all, but I think this shows how dated the Fallout Bible document is. My guess is that what was meant in the Fallout Bible was that all the lights were really dim in the vault, and so it was hard to see, and that could be annoying and life-changing. Maybe the dwellers would develop better ability to see in low light, whatever, but 40 watts could also be a lot for a light bulb. It just depends on what type of light bulb is used. The brightness of a bulb isn't dependent on its watts, but it's dependent on its lumens. Some article I read online said that 1000 lumens is good for a basement. A typical 40 watt incandescent bulb produces about 420 lumens, so if the vault uses incandescent bulbs, it'll be dim. But newer technology like halogen or LED bulbs produce tons of lumens for a little amount of wattage. A 10 watt LED could produce 1000 lumens. With that being said, it's Vault-Tec. They probably used incandescent light bulbs. I caught a lot of flack in this video about mentioning LED or halogen, but the point I was trying to make was that using 40 watts as a description for the vault doesn't mean much. 40 watts can be bright, 40 watts can be dim. The fact that the Fallout Bible doesn't use lumens shows that the Bible is a dated article. 40 watts just isn't a good descriptor for brightness these days. Vault 43 only has one sentence to describe it. It features in the official Fallout webcomic, one man and a crate of puppets. It receives only a single panel to accompany the terrifying set of words. It reads, or Vault 43, which consisted of 20 men, 10 women, and 1 panther. Although the panther appears to be either rabid or salivating, I like to think that it's merely just some milk, and the panther is a messy drinker. Wouldn't it be such a sweet and kind story if the 30 dwellers accepted the panther as a pet? A harsh world needs some wholesome moments too. Known as the Desert Vault, Vault 44 is part of Fallout the board game's first expansion, New California. It's an encounter where you go to investigate what happened to the vault's inhabitants. As you explore and fight the miscellaneous creatures there, you come to realize that there are no living residents. The water system appears to be non-functional for a long time. You reach the food storage and see the room is covered in a sticky substance with crawling creatures all around. Entering the living quarters, you see the corpses of the dwellers malnourished and decaying. In the security wing, you discover that vault security was almost non-existent. Through some fiddling with the terminal, you manage to unlock the lower levels and find the true purpose of the vault. You find cages for deathclaws, feral ghouls, yagwais, and a mirelurk queen, with some automated feeding tubes shoving food into the pens. I had some questions about why these creatures would be in the vault, and to that I say 1, the creatures you fight are random between these, so it's not all of them, and 2, it's literally just a board game for fun that is technically non-canon anyway, so just have some fun with it. Some sentry bots roam the facility, ensuring no creatures escape. The vault's logs indicate that all dwellers, even the overseer, were unaware of what was beneath them. It turns out that an experimental suit of Tesla power armor in the lower levels was drawing too much power, and with a combination of the experiments on the creatures, the vault's refrigeration unit failed, the vault door seized, and the dwellers were doomed. Vault 51 has a ton of lore, and I know I won't be able to cover all of it in 60 seconds or less, but I'll give a good summary. With only 52 dwellers assigned, Vault 51 was not given an overseer. Instead, Zack's supercomputer, known as Zack's 1.3C, was installed with the goal of determining the best way to select a leader. One dweller, Sergeant Robert Baker, was let in early to the vault to teach Zax about the qualities of a leader and the best way to choose one. Baker proposed a democratic election. This failed as everyone voted for themselves. A republic was also attempted after, but this also failed. After these 2 attempts, Zax determined that voting was useless, but Baker told him to hold off on making such a hasty decision after only 2 tries. Baker told Zax that a leader was someone who stepped up in times of crisis. This would unknowingly influence the fate of the vault. Zax began constructing several social experiments that would create a crisis scenario. This included rigging high-stakes games of chance, replacing coffee with decaf, providing guns to dwellers at random, or creating food shortages. All these things made the dwellers extremely distressed, causing them to angrily lash out on each other, resulting in multiple deaths in the span of 10 months. This came to a head when a dweller's corpse was discovered. The remaining dwellers assumed murder and fell into chaos. By the time the fighting stopped, only one man, Reuben Gill, was left. Reuben remained isolated and at mercy of Zax until nearby Vault 76 opened, and Zax saw an opportunity to find a new overseer. Vault 53 was a sadistic experiment intended to only cause the most extreme psychological harm to its dwellers. The entry reads, "Most of the equipment was designed to break down every few months. While repairable, the breakdowns were intended to stress the inhabitants unduly." I don't know what sick person thought of this, but can you imagine the constant frustration and the eventual acceptance, knowing that every couple months something would break? On top of that, because of the amount of equipment a vault houses, every day there is probably a broken tool, object, or system that needs repairing. Obviously, over time people would get better at repairing things, but just imagine after a long workout, you're sweaty and gross, and then the shower won't work. Just that kind of nuisance over time would be frustrating. If you weren't a handy person going into the vault, you'd definitely be one coming out. 2 more from the Fallout Bible are the pairs Vault 55 and Vault 56. Both share similarities to a control vault with one small caveat. Vault 55 had all of its entertainment tapes removed prior to occupation. I would assume this meant that the vault had no movies, music, or holotape games. I figure this would mean that the dwellers would have to find other ways to cure boredom. Reading, creating art, playing board games seems like fine alternatives to me. Overall, it doesn't sound like a bad experience. Vault 56, on the other hand, also had all its entertainment tapes removed, with one exception though. All of Vault 56's tapes were removed except those from one particularly bad comic actor. The Fallout Bible made sure to mention that sociologists predicted Vault 56 to fail before Vault 55. Still currently closed, Vault 63 is located in the ash heap region of Appalachia. The entrance is located inside of a small shack. A terminal reveals the vault door status is sealed and the vault status is normal. While I'm sure the developers have plans to integrate the location into the world of Fallout 76 eventually, Vault 63 has quite a bit of cut content. Things that were originally planned but removed for either being unfinished, buggy, or not well implemented. One piece of cut content was the quest Lockdown, where you'd venture to 3 vaults searching for security access tapes to unlock a secret room in the Vault-Tec University. In addition, Vault 63 is supposed to be a vault raid part of the Nuclear Winter update. There were 3 missions associated with the vault raid: Reactor Meltdown, Fire Outbreak, and a Riot. While I've only mentioned the cut content, if a new Fallout 76 update comes out that uses Vault 63, I'll be sure to update this video. Vault 65 is another piece of cut content from Bethesda's Fallout 76. However, unlike the previous Vault 63, Vault 65 does not appear in-game, but the game files do reveal some information on the vault. While the vault experiment is unknown, we have some clues that it might have something to do with radiation, like Vault 6, 12, 84, or the demonstration vault in Nuka World. For example, the entrance of the vault has several radiation scanners, and there are 31 spawn points for feral ghouls and a lone spawn point for a glowing one. While these pieces of evidence by no means confirm or deny any experiment, I just thought it was interesting to point out. Other than that, it seems like a standard vault, a catwalk entrance like 111, atrium, cafeteria, classroom, the works, you know? I should also note that Vault 65 is also referred to as Vault 75 in some files, but as Vault 75 appears in Fallout 4, this was either a typo or placeholder name for whatever reason. Vault 68 and 69 aren't that exciting. Vault 68's population was 999 men and only 1 woman, and Vault 69 had 999 women and only 1 man. That's all the info we have. Vault 69 does appear in a single comic panel of 1 man and a crate of puppets, but that's it. I'm sure everyone was friendly, the vaults opened, and everyone went on with their day, happily knowing that they survived the nuclear apocalypse from the safety of a well-equipped Fallout shelter. Or here's a fun theory. What if the vaults were in communication with each other and the lone gender in both hosted a blind dating game, pairing a couple from each vault together? Wouldn't that be cute? Vault 70 was a planned location for the cancelled Black Isle Studio game, Van Buren. It also appears in the Fallout Bible vault list. It may seem like a reoccurring trend where I say these vaults don't have a lot of info on them, but it's true. The vault list in the Fallout Bible dedicates at most 2 sentences to describe it. And yeah, while we could sit around and theorize other things about these vaults for an hour-long video, I think that's pointless. That's why a lot of the time I come up with weird or wholesome theories when I do speculate, because in the strange sci-fi apocalyptic world that Fallout is in, my weird theories are just as likely as anyone else's. Anywho, Vault 70 was home to many Mormon groups. The Fallout Bible mentions that their vault jumpsuit extruders broke down just after 6 months. I expect they would either fix this or just start tailoring their own clothing. The vault would open in 2190, 113 years after the Great War, and the dwellers would use their geks to create New Jerusalem in the ruins of Salt Lake City, where they would live in peace for only 43 years. But that's for another video. This one is a bit funky. First things first, it's cut content like Vault 65. It was originally created by the Fallout 3 devs as a tutorial area to showcase the game file editor. Funnily enough, like the terraforming device from the game, the devs call their file editor the Gek as well. The weird part is, it never appears in the game files of Fallout 3. Vault 74 does, however, appear in Fallout New Vegas' game files, so it makes the list for Fallout New Vegas cut content. Using console commands, you can teleport your character to the vault. It's not very big, only including an overseer's office, atrium, clinic, and blocked off living quarters. There are some raider decorations and a holotape laying on the ground in the overseer's office. The holotape reads, "The vault has been breached. There was not enough power to level 5. God have mercy on our souls." Judging by the vault state and the holotape, there likely wasn't a good ending for the dwellers. Vault 75 was advertised as a place for the children of Malden Middle School to seek shelter in the event of nuclear war. When October 23, 2077 came by, every family with a child attending the school and teachers made it safely to the vault. The children were separated from their families and taken to the atrium as vault staff told the children that their parents needed orientation. The orientation involved the elimination of the adults, so, yeah, it's not really an effective orientation. This ensured that no one in the vault was over the age of 18. This aligned with the vault's goal, however, as Vault-Tec wanted to enhance the gene pool of its residents. The goal of the vault was to create stronger and more intelligent subjects. They did this through various rigorous methods, testing and grading the kids' strength and intellect. The kids were told the horrors of the wasteland, and that by the time they graduate from the vault's program at 18, they will be suited to help the wastelanders. This actually was all a ruse. The only way to survive Vault 75 was to have excellent or superior intellect scores, as Vault-Tec would recruit you onto the research staff. If you had high overall scores, your genes were harvested, and if you had anything else, you were eliminated. At some point, a quick and merciless revolt happened. Much of the data and research went missing or is destroyed. By the time the sole survivor gets to the vault, it serves as a secret stronghold for the gunners. This vault has I heard a couple theories after I posted the video that people thought that the gunners came from this vault. And while this may be true, the gunners that we know in Fallout 4, by the time that game takes place, if all the research and data was erased from this vault already, and by the time that Fallout 4 takes place, the gunners that we see in those games wouldn't have the enhanced genes, either due to, inbreeding causing too much deformations, or just if they're not inbreeding, then the enhanced genes would go away over time, right? It's like 200 years between when this experiment would have happened and Fallout 4. And also there is some dialogue in Fallout 4, I think it's in the Nuka World DLC, that indicates that the gunners came from outside of the Commonwealth. It's a cool theory, but I just think that it's more likely to me anyway that the gunners just saw Vault 75 empty and said, hey, why don't we set up shop here? Home to one of Appalachia's most influential people, the Vault Dweller from 76, Vault 76 was America's best chance at restructuring society post-war. A Vault-Tec terminal in the Citadel claims it was one of 17 control vaults. It states that the vault would automatically open 20 years after nuclear war, pushing its residents into the New World for study. We know from the 76 game that the vault would actually stay closed for 25 years. The Citadel terminal claims that it was a control vault, but obviously that just means in this case that there was no fancy gimmicks going on in the vault during the vault's duration. Obviously, once the vault doors opened, the terminal in the Citadel said that they want to study the residents and the New World. So obviously there is some experiment tied to it, but it seems like in this context they mean that there is no dangerous game that the Dwellers are playing in 76. The Overseer received special orders from Vault-Tec stating that this vault project is one of the most important Vault-Tec has undertaken. The residents are the cream of the crop of America. The Overseer's primary objective was to see to the health and livelihood of all the Dwellers. This doesn't really sound like a control vault, does it? Vault 76 operated as planned, but with some unique challenges. The residents, or Resis as security would call them, were stubborn. The best and brightest had a hard time accepting the authority of the Overseer. This, combined with the vault's increasing population, led to some mounting tension before the vault's opening. After the duration of their stay, each Dweller was provided with a camp and directed to run fast and far from 76 as soon as the doors opened. As 24 hours after the all-clear message, all vault amenities would cease to function. Out of fear of the vault's first casualty, the security team refused to arm the Resis before their ambitious mission. I didn't really get a chance to talk about this in the original video, but the Overseer wanted to arm the Resis, the Dwellers. This was due to obviously going out into the wilderness for the first time, seeing the new life and world that you have to experience would take a toll, and not many people would make it out without something to protect themselves. But up to that point, there hadn't been a casualty yet, and for fear that the Dwellers were making alliances with each other, they didn't want it to end up being once they get outside the vault, they'll start just shooting at each other. Because obviously the people inside the vault, they were stubborn, like I mentioned. And obviously they all have some sort of ego attached to them. And if they have these alliances and some people want to go to this place and another group of people actually want to take over that place, then you can see where conflict would arise, and the security team didn't want to deal with that. Vault 77 makes an appearance in the Fallout 3 promotional webcomic, One Man and a Crate of Puppets. Though the comic is technically non-canon, Vault 77 does exist, as a jumpsuit can be found in Paradise Falls along with a cautionary holotape. I got some mild hate for saying this, that the comic is technically non-canon. Just because something is I think that's why I made my canon video. Just because something is non-canon doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It's just that unless otherwise stated in a game or disproving it, then it could have happened. There's nothing to say that it didn't happen. I just make the clarification here because I thought it was interesting that the comic is non-canon, so the events in the comic may not have happened, but obviously Vault 77 does exist because the jumpsuit is there in Paradise Falls, and the holotape, as we'll get to, does mention a crazed person that could be the Puppet Man. The comic is about a lone man in the vault. Exactly 1 year, 3 months, and 12 days later, a mysterious crate is received by the dweller. In it, a ration of puppets. The lone man entertained himself by playing with the puppets until one day he broke. As he went on with his usual day, a Vault Boy puppet began speaking with him. The Vault Boy puppet enabled the man and convinced him to leave the vault after the murder of the Puppet King. His adventures outside the vault were no less crazy. He befriended a giant ant and named him Mr. Pinch. He met the locals of another vault that didn't appear to have as nice amenities as his, and runs into a group of slavers. While deciding whether to enslave or eat the dweller, he tells the group to be careful as the Vault Boy puppet has murdered before. That night, one of the slavers flees to another group, panicked, saying the Puppet Man killed his partner and is coming for them next. The comic ends with the unhinged Puppet Man standing in a field of bodies. Despite not mentioning puppets of any kind, the holotape at Paradise Falls mentions a stranger with no name who freaks the boys out. So like I said, this could be the Puppet Man. However, any sort of outside media that aren't the main 6 games were deemed non-canon. This vault is actually pretty interesting. Constructed in secret, Vault 79 was built to house the Fort Knox's gold. The concrete contractor was different from the other Appalachian vaults, and the land was bought from local farmers under the guise that it was radioactive. The number 79 was chosen in reference to gold's atomic number on the periodic table. It would be the basis for restarting the United States economy. The vault would house 100 dwellers. These would likely be soldiers and Secret Service agents to guard the deposit. An incident occurred which almost unveiled the vault's purpose pre-war when a few soldiers took some gold to gamble at the Ultralux casino. To maintain its secrecy, those involved and those who saw the soldiers were either eliminated or disappeared. I will likely make a separate video on this event. I think I have it scheduled to come out during my little pre-war dive that I'm doing right now. But the event that I'm talking about happened in like 2072, so we're still a little ways away off it. So expect that in the coming weeks. Anyway, word of nuclear war was received from the Air Force Base, and the soldiers on duty sealed the vault. Sometime post-war, after not hearing an all clear for a while, a mutiny was led by Secret Service agent Shorty, which left much of the inhabitants dead. By 2103, rumors of treasure led to people searching for the vault, and with the help of the Vault Dweller from 76, the group would be able to breach the vault. It's always weird to me that in 76, the main character, protagonist, is called the Vault Dweller, and in Fallout 1, they're called the Vault Dweller. I read somewhere, I think it might have been a Reddit post, I'm not sure where, but someone called the Vault Dweller from 76 the Pioneer, and I thought that was a really cool name. So, we'll see if I switch it up to Pioneer or not, but if I ever say the Pioneer, you know that that's the protagonist of Fallout 76. Vault 81 is an active and functioning vault in the Commonwealth. However, the vault's experiment failed because the original overseer actively sabotaged Vault-Tec's directive. The goal of the vault was to create a single super cure to cure every sickness humanity could ever develop. The vault would use its residents as test subjects. There were 2 sections to the vault, an area where the dwellers would live, and the secret area dedicated to research and observation. The researchers would expose the dwellers to various ailments through nozzles in the dwellers' rooms. If, for whatever reason, the vault needed to evacuate, the same nozzles would incinerate the main dwellers. When Dr. Olivet, the first overseer, heard about Vault-Tec's plan, she decided she wouldn't subject her dwellers to this fate. So, she deactivated the call list for the science staff so they wouldn't get notified to report to the vault on the day of the Great War. However, 3 scientists still managed to get into the vault. Before human testing could start, Olivet disabled the nozzles and sealed all access points to the secret area, isolating the scientists for the rest of their lives. They modified a Miss Nanny unit, creating Curie to help with their research. When the scientists passed of old age, Curie would continue her work for decades. In 2204, the universal cure was created, and in 2287, the only remaining dose would be used. I think it should be noted, 1, I have more lore on this vault in my Curie extended lore video that I made. It kind of goes over Curie's story as well as the story of Vault 81. And then I feel like I should also note, someone pointed out in the comments of this original video that Olivet, while technically the first overseer, they had another overseer candidate, but the other overseer candidate fell ill. So I just wanted to point that out. Shout out to whoever said that in the comments. There you go. Vault 84, like Vault 7 and Vault 44 from previous videos, is from Fallout the board game. Rumors of hostile people locked away in a vault is all that's needed to convince you to investigate. You're let in and led to the overseer. He mentions that visitors haven't been allowed in for over 100 years, but allows you to stay and warns you that the vote is coming. Mysterious. Many of the encounters are just speaking with the dwellers. Succeeding various checks gets you info about the vault and gets you an endorsement in the upcoming vote. A doctor tells you that once per year, a vote is held to kick someone out that they think is a traitor. He tells you that getting any votes can ostracize you from the group. As you speak with the dwellers, you can learn some interesting information. 1. They used to be in communication with another vault long ago. 2. If you successfully sneak a peek at the Overseer's terminal, you learn that the vote is a sham. The concept of the traitor was made up for psychological study, so while the dwellers were convinced that traitors were amongst them, they were really just duped by Vault-Tec and the Overseer. If you share this info with the rest of the dwellers, they become furious at the Overseer and it submits her to the fate that she gave to many others. If you fail to find this info out, it's likely that you're exiled instead. Home of the Capital Wasteland Super Mutants, Vault 87's original experiment was scrapped for the Vault to become a research center for the forced evolutionary virus. Dr. Wayne Merrick and his staff would use the Vault to try and produce reliable mutation in humans that would allow them to thrive in a post-nuclear environment. However, they only ever managed to create the super mutants of the Capital Wasteland. Despite substantial increases in strength, this project was seen as a failure, as the subjects suffered considerable mental damage and exhibited extreme aggression. The Overseer and security staff were aware of the experiments, but the precautions were not enough. A year after the Vault had been sealed, some managed to break free, overwhelm security, and have since taken control of the Vault. Due to their infertility, super mutants kidnap humans to bring them back to the Vault and commence the mutation process. This was fine for almost 200 years until their FEV supply began to run low. Since then, they've been scouring the wastes, looking for another source of the virus. By 2277, much of the Vault is in disarray. The Lone Wanderer ventures to 87 in search of its Garden of Eden creation kit to help with Project Purity. Part of the Vault-Tec Workshop DLC, Vault 88 is an incomplete vault found in the Commonwealth. Vault 88 was originally intended to operate before a nuclear war. It was planned to take on its first dwellers in 2078, however, this wouldn't end up happening as in October 2077 the bombs would drop. The purpose of the vault was to test various Vault-Tec products on the dwellers with the hopes of developing technologies that would redefine society. For example, Vault-Tec wanted to convert useless exercise into a socially useful activity, manipulate moods of the dwellers, or develop forms of mind control. Any ethical concerns were dismissed as counterproductive and close-minded. Successful devices would then be rolled out to the other vaults for use. Vault 88 would never get a chance to fully operate, as by October 23, 2077, the Great War would halt construction. Only the main entrance, security, and reactor rooms were finished before the bombs dropped. In 2287, the sole survivor would receive an emergency broadcast from the vault and go to investigate. After helping Overseer Barstow with various tasks that include clearing out different sectors of the vault, it becomes an expansive workshop for the sole survivor's creations. I had some questions about why they would, if this vault was supposed to operate before the Great War, why would they make it last, or why was it incomplete? And to that I say, in construction, there's a ton of logistical things that need to be sorted out. One, the people managing this project for the Vault 88 were likely not the same people managing other Commonwealth vaults. And then on top of that, it would make sense that if this vault was supposed to operate regardless of nuclear winter or not, then that means that you would start construction on the ones that were meant to operate only during nuclear winter, because those would be the more important to have than this one. Because say the bombs don't drop in 2077, say they drop in 2100, well, then you'd have all the vaults that were meant to protect people from the Great War done, and you'd still have this vault, and it would probably be done by before 2100, and then there you go. It makes sense, right? Located northwest of Old Oni, Vault 92 was Vault-Tec's way to preserve musical talent. The world's best musicians were extended invitations to the fallout shelter. The vault was designed to house 245 dwellers for a projected duration of 100 years. To appease the dwellers, sound equipment, instruments, and recording gear were included with the standard vault supply list. The goal was to protect the musical legacy of mankind. However, a second secret mission was also at play. Once the vault sealed on October 23, 2077, Overseer Richard Rubin began implementing Vault-Tec Confidential Plan WNMSCE, or White Noise Mind Suggestion Combat Experimentation. The Vault speakers would emit a modulated ultra-low frequency white noise with the hopes of implanting combat suggestions in human subjects. The first few tests on isolated musicians in sound booths proved successful. From here, the Overseer extended the reach of white noise so that the entirety of the vault would hear the white noise with other music overlaid. To ensure full reach across the dwellers, personal music devices were banned. The effectiveness of this project was near 100%, but the success was only temporary. One of the dwellers went insane and murdered 3 others. To the Overseer, the loss of life was negligible. What wasn't known at the time was the white noise caused the brain to deteriorate. In addition to the tests, the vault was falling apart from underground water erosion. But the failing vault structure was the least of their worries, as more incidents occurred, leaving 70 dwellers clinically insane and 35 dead. As parts of the vault crumbled and succumbed to partial flooding, the remaining dwellers would submit to their doomed fate. With this vault, the theory is that it's not that the Overseer just went nuts or actually, I guess the theory is that the Overseer did go nuts. The theory is that Overseer Richard Rubin, during the test, the first few tests on isolated musicians and sound booths, Richard Rubin actually succumbed to the mind suggestions, the white noise mind suggestion himself, and that's when he decided, okay, let's, obviously decided in an insane mind, he decided that, alright, let's expand this test project, let's go and play the white noise for all the dwellers instead. So yeah, it'd make more sense to not do that as the Overseer, but the theory is that the Overseer actually succumbed to the mind suggestion, and then this is the product of that. In reality, I guess they should have hired an Overseer that was deaf. That might have helped. But obviously hindsight is 2020. We've already covered Vault 31 from Fallout Shelter, and I'm afraid we must return to it. Many vaults appear as dungeons in Fallout Shelter. I will do my best to go over as many as I can in 60 seconds before moving on to the next set of vaults. To maximize the number of vaults in this part, I'm going to limit myself to 1 sentence per vault. If you play Fallout Shelter religiously, don't get mad at me if I miss some details. Let's begin. Vault 93 housed a professional soccer player who is now a ghoul. Vault 120 was attacked by raiders after a new Boston Bugle article was written about them. Vault 144 worships death because of a typo. The raiders of Vault 177 kidnapped Bottle and Cappy from Nuka World. Vault 189 was described as the oasis of relaxation, having a sauna, pool, and a hot tub. While looking for a lost dog named Bigsby, you check Vault 199. He's not there. Vault 226 was made for Vault-Tec's least punctual employees. They were late to the vault. While looking for Racky Jobbins in Spaceball jersey, you check Vault 232. It's not there. Vault 233 put out a distress call. By the time you get there, raiders inhabit the abandoned vault. Vault 242 had creatures as the dwellers instead of humans. And there we go. I think that's 10 vaults in the span of 60 seconds, let's hope. Vault 94 was designed with the ideas of non-violence and harmony with nature in mind. The dwellers belonged to an agricultural religious group led by Gabriella Salivar. Instead of an overseer, the vault was governed by a council where all dwellers would have a say. The vault's primary mission was to preserve the local ecosystem of the vault and use their GEC to purify the surrounding wastes. Tyrone Hayes, the sole Vault-Tec employee, was tasked with reporting the vault's progress to Vault-Tec and avoid contact with the dwellers, but as time passed, Tyrone would integrate into the community. As the shelter period came to an end, Salivar suggested sending out ambassadors to look for survivors to bring back to their commune. Many ambassadors would fall victim to raiders, however, much worse was yet to come. A Vault 94 ambassador made it to Harper's Ferry and invited the survivors back to their sanctuary. Wary of the dwellers' claims, Miranda Vox, mayor of Harper's Ferry, sent out a small group to investigate. The group, certain they were walking into a trap, massacred the vault's council. They made it to the GEC room and, believing it was a mind-controlling device, shot it with a minigun. This triggered a meltdown of the vault's fusion reactor, causing a level 6 nuclear explosion and creating the Appalachian location now known as the Mire. Since then, the vault has remained sealed. It can only be opened with an access card that the ambassadors would have carried. Vault 95 was created as a place for rehabilitation for those who suffered from chem addiction. The overseer was elected by members of the community, changing annually on October 30th. Residency in the vault required strict adherence to the program, even if chem dependency became a non-issue over time, and the residents were cooperative. For 5 years after the vault was sealed in 2077, the vault was operating as intended. While some still struggled with withdrawal, the program was helping the dwellers deal with the symptoms and cope with their new, clean lives in the vault. Their hypothesis was correct. When there is no other alternative, an individual can recover from addictions. It was going great until a planted Vault-Tec agent posing as a dweller opened a hidden supply of chems. It was the agent's job to document the happenings after. In typical Vault-Tec experiment fashion, the happenings were not good. The familial bonds the dwellers grew over time shattered. Some did their best to avoid chems and hide, others became hostile. Some even planned to leave the vault for good. Now, over 200 years later, like Vault 75, the vault is a den for the gunners. So, I already know that with Vault 96, this is probably deserving of its own longer video, but I want to keep these vaults, to save time, I want to keep these vaults under a minute or less, and keep with the title. So, this vault definitely has more information than I'm giving. This is my best summary of it with the time that we have. Vault 96's mission was to monitor genetic damage experienced by local fauna post-war and reintroduce species to restore ecological balance. The vault housed only 5 residents, including the overseer, each highly gifted and accomplished in their respective roles. However, after the vault sealed, they received an addendum. Their true mission was far more complex. Genetic experiments were to be conducted to discover countermeasures for mutated fauna. Using their cryogenic storage of almost 10,000 various animals, they would begin their experimentation. I should also note that the facility housed a mysterious entity only known as X001, only accessible by the automated research systems. Weekly quotas for experiments were established by the vault's mainframe and distributed to the residents. Failure to meet the quotas would lead to extermination. The biologists would induce various mutations to the creatures housed at the facility. These started out basic, venom or regeneration, and then evolved to more complex, pyrokinesis or chameleonization. As the experiments progressed, the overseer revealed that he had an escape plan for the rest of the residents, claiming that he had been a prisoner to the mainframe as much as them. This plan ultimately failed, but not before infecting the mainframe and releasing the animals. Alright, Vault 100, we've hit a milestone. We still got a bunch to go, but we've made it, like 80 minutes in? I don't know how long we're in. Less than 80 minutes. We made it like 50 or so minutes in. Great work, team. We hit a milestone. And to celebrate this milestone, we have cut content, cut content, cut content. A short one. As ladies and gentlemen, we make history. Forget Vault 10, forget Vault 24, forget Vault 27, because we may have reached the absolute pinnacle of vaults with minimal information. Are you ready? I am about to show you the only piece of evidence that Vault 100 ever existed. Bam, a Vault 100 jumpsuit icon. Incredible. Set to stay closed indefinitely, Vault 101's purpose was to study the role of the Overseer should a vault never open. As such, the vault went through several Overseers. To convince people to stay, the original Overseer told the vault dwellers about the horrors of the surface world, saying that it was a wasteland with no hope of survival. The second Overseer popularized the mantra, "We are born in the vault, we live in the vault, and we die in the vault." However, a later Overseer favored outside contact and assembled a survey team, led by Jonas's mother, Anne. The team would leave the vault and make contact with Megaton sometime in 2241. This team would bring samples from the outside world back to study. 2 dwellers, Lewis and Agnes Taylor, would remain in Megaton to serve as ambassadors for the vault. Agnes would return to 101 around 2258. The Overseer at this time would vanish after a failed expedition. The next Overseer was Alphonse Almodovar, who had turned Vault 101 into a strict police state with a focus on isolationism, only allowing James and his child entry in exchange for his medical expertise. James' sudden departure from the vault in 2277 would incite the events of Fallout 3. More can be learned about Vault 101 in the side quest Trouble on the Home Front, but I'll save that for another video. Located south of Kalen's bed and breakfast, Vault 106's experiment was particularly heinous. 10 days after the vault had sealed, the Overseer released psychoactive drugs into the vault's air filtration system. From the vault's terminals, it's determined that the Overseer was aware of the release of the hallucinatory substance into the air and issued a security notice to those with high enough vault security clearance to remain in a designated safe location while the substance was in the air. Later, an all clear was issued, letting Vault security know that the filtration systems were working at 100% again. However, this was evidently not the case, as when the Lone Wanderer ventures into 106, they experience the blue-tinted hallucinations the dwellers would have had. It's evident that not all dwellers were affected by the drugs, as a note about people acting strange can be found, and some dwellers tried to blast their way out of the vault. Regardless, despite the Overseer's terminal entry about being ready and prepared for the worst, the current state of the vault says otherwise. Gary! Vault 108 was set up to fail from the start. The standard operating time for 108 was 38 years, but there were several steps to make sure this was never going to happen. First, the primary power supply was to intentionally fail 20 years into the shelter period, and their backup was not sufficient to power the entire vault. Second, the armory was stocked threefold, and no entertainment tapes were provided. 3. All standard positions to operate the vault were left unfilled, only to be signed by Overseer Brody Jones afterwards. The exception was Zach Jameson as the Chief of Staff, Jarek Maddox as Chief of Security, and Nathan Oregon as the Morale Officer. In addition to this, Overseer Jones was chosen because he had a rare type of cancer and is only expected to live a little over 3 years since the project's start date. To top this cluster off, scientists began to repeatedly clone a man named Gary, each iteration becoming more and more violent until Gary 54. Sometime after the cloning, the Garys violently took control of the vault, where a dozen can be found milling about the vault. The vault that was in communication with Vault 84, Vault 109, was lost to radiation. This vault appears as an encounter in the board game Fallout the board game. Passing through the vault, you notice several peculiar things. First, as the lights flicker on in a large room, you can make out what appears to be the remnants of a fashion runway. Next, various rooms along the hallway are made up to look like high-end stores, like Mary May, Ticknoran Fields, and Fallon's. Hostile but stylish super mutants can be found dressed up nicely. A display case in the armory houses a fat man that can be looted. Deep in the vault, a hallway with multiple cells can be found, and to your surprise, there are living people in them, all in elegant clothing. You can free them. And lastly, in the Overseer's office, after hacking into their terminal, all sorts of communication and surveillance systems can be found. On the way out of the vault, a lonely suit of T-60 power armor is found, ready for the taking. Vault 111 was designed to observe the effects of long-term cryogenic suspended animation on unsuspecting test subjects. Using the guise of decontamination, the few residents would enter stasis pods. The vault was to remain sealed for a minimum of 180 days until an all-clear signal from Vault-Tec was issued. They never received word from Vault-Tec, and the Overseer refused to open the vault, believing the outside was not survivable. As supplies ran low, a mutiny between the staff and Overseer commenced. The staff demanded that the vault door be opened. It's unsure what came of this mutiny, but there is evidence that there may have been some casualties. In 2227, the Institute, looking for a source of pure human DNA, found Vault 111. Conrad Kellogg and 2 scientists were sent to retrieve the infant, Sean. Unwilling to relinquish the boy, Kellogg shot the parent while the sole survivor could only watch, before being put back into stasis again. 60 years later, unknowing to the sole survivor, Sean would release the sole survivor from stasis, and they would begin their search for their lost child. Located under Smith Casey's garage, Vault 112 was Vault-Tec's gift to Dr. Stanislaus Braun. Director of the Societal Preservation Program and creator of the GEC, Braun was allowed to commission anything to improve his stay at 112. Vault 112 was to house 85 residents, and was one of the last vaults to be constructed, finishing in June 2074. Braun requested the installation of several Visiontron loungers to host his own virtual world, using the dwellers as pawns. Some of these worlds were Toucan Lagoon and Slalom Chalet. As the human residents were subject to suspended animation, a fleet of robobrains took care of the vault. The last world he had before encountering James and the Lone Wanderer was a simulated suburb known as Tranquility Lane. The first of 2 double dips, you might remember Vault 113 from my Bethesda Pinball video. In Bethesda Pinball, the vault contained a luck bobblehead, but this Vault 113 is probably less interesting, and that's because it's cut content. A single texture appears in Fallout 4's game files. The image itself looks like a welcome sign for Vault 113. Outside of that, various jumpsuit images in the Art of Fallout 4 features the numbers 113. We also get this cool little concept art for a train yard. Pretty neat stuff. Found in the subways of Boston Common, Vault 114 was to house only the elite. However, the luxuries of 114 were highly exaggerated to the future dwellers. Living quarters, dining, and bathing areas were shared by multiple families, and amenities were minimal. Unlike most vaults, the Overseer was not a current member of Vault-Tec. The personnel at Vault 114 were tasked with interviewing individuals outside of the organization. The goal of the interviews was to find someone with zero supervisory or government experience and who had a strong anti-authority bias. The interviews proved successful as they found their new overseer, a man known only as Soup Can Harry. Soup Can accepted the position on one condition: he wouldn't wear a tie or pants. Soup Can was the perfect candidate. He believed that the government used tax money to fund Illuminati Freemason fun parties. He refers to his actual name as the rank and number the government brands on him, and he occasionally eats a Braxo cleaner, refusing to adhere to the toxic warning and claiming that he'll eat what he wants. Unfortunately, Soup Can and everyone else associated with the vault would never make it to 114, as it never finished construction before the Great War. In 2287, it's occupied by Skinny Malone's gang, the Triggermen. Another shortcut content vault, Vault 117 makes an appearance as a jumpsuit in the art of Fallout 4. But in a series first, Vault 117 actually also appears in an hour-and-a-half long documentary called The History of Bethesda Game Studios. In the documentary, there's a scene that shows an early iteration of the map of Fallout 4. It looks like the map was used to illustrate the progress they've made on the world of Fallout 4. But if you take a close look at the map, you'll notice a location just north of the Jamaica Plains. What's that? Vault 117. Nito Benito. The last numbered canon vault in the series, Vault 118 is located underneath the Cliff's Edge Hotel on the island of Far Harbor. The vault had two separate wings managed by a single overseer. One was for 10 ultra-rich people from the area, and the other was for up to 300 working-class people. The ultra-rich had every desire tended to by a staff of robots, while the working class would be stuck in cramped, uncomfortable conditions in the second wing. However, construction on the second wing came to a grinding halt. Once the premier upper-class sector was constructed, funding was cut, preventing the second wing from being built. One of the residents, Dr. Bert Riggs, worked for General Atomics International as a lead developer on the RoboBrain project. He and his wife Juliana convinced the other residents of the ultra-elite that the only way to ensure survival through the rising international tension was to plant their own brains into RoboBrains. When the Great War happened, the 10 ultra-elite made it to the vault. No outside people were allowed in, and the Overseer was the only human. The Overseer would gradually lose their sanity until they could not take it anymore. The RoboBrains would live on in isolation until solving a murder mystery would require outside help. 2 words: underwater vault. Vault 120 appears as our second and final double dip of the series. You may remember Vault 120 from Fallout Shelter as the vault that got attacked after a new Boston Bugle article was written about them. Vault 120 was set to be placed underwater in the Commonwealth. We know this from a few clues in the names of unused, untextured game files. 2 files, Vault Squid Window 01 and Vault Large Door Marine 01, kinda give this away. In addition, a Reddit AMA by Todd Howard revealed that Vault 120 and its accompanying side quest, 20 Leagues Under the Sea, was to be a Bioshock-style vault with a giant sentient octopus outside. As to what the quest exactly entailed, some speculate that this had to do with a cut harpoon gun that was later implemented in Far Harbor. With this being said, I don't know if fighting a giant octopus would be cool or extremely terrifying. Probably a bit of both. Remember Vault 117 and the History of Bethesda Game Studio documentary? Well, Vault 121 appears on the same concept map. This one is a little interesting though, and that's because Vault 121 is in the exact location as Vault 95 in the released game, so likely 121 was just a placeholder number for the vault. As to why they changed the numbers from 121 to 95, it's anyone's guess really. I can't think of anything reasonable as to why the number needed to change. Maybe in the case the work in progress map got leaked, the full release would be different. I'm not too sure. What do you guys think? Alright, we are now done with numbered vaults from any game that is not Fallout Shelter. The only vaults that remain from other games are the named ones like the VTU Training Vault. With that being said, let's get into 10 Fallout Shelter vaults. Following the trail of the infamous Gobbler leads you to Vault 261. Remember Bigsby the dog from Vault 199? Yep, he was in Vault 314. On your search for magic water, you come across the dwellers of 315 who claim it's total hogwash. Vault 317 houses the last clover samples from before the Great War. Vault 322 discovered the ultimate secret, that Vault-Tec has been experimenting on the dwellers for years. You stop by Vault 333 while following the footsteps of Paula Plumpkin, who's looking for the mythical utopia Vaultopolis. While trying to determine the fates of Maxon's Roughnecks, you fight the raiders of 390. Vault 404's overseer knows a way to contact the publisher of the new Boston Bugle. While looking for someone named Coach, who has the jersey of the famed baseball player Racky Jobinson, you look for them at Vault 428. He's not there. Oh, and while looking for Maxon's Roughnecks, you check Vault 450. They're not there. The rest of the vaults from here on out will be Fallout Shelter until we get to the named ones, so just bear with me as we get through this. Vault 505 develops video games for Pip-Boys. Vault 512 constantly has Radroach and Radscorpion problems. Vault 525 is the Vault Utopia known as Vaultopolis, giving gifts and treasures to those who can find it. Vault 666 is a secret vault not known on any Vault-Tec registry. It houses a pyromaniac known as El Diablo. Vault 700 is filled with feral ghouls after Rhubarb's raiders punctured the reactor. Vault 711 is the home of the leader of Rhubarb's raiders, Rhubarb Mitchell, who joins your vault after surrendering. You find Vault 730 while following the trail of Paula Plumpkin. You rescue some kidnapped settlers at Vault 778 during your search for famed Minuteman, Preston Garvey. While looking for Coach, who has Iraqi Jobinson's jersey, you go to Vault 789 where he finally gives up and leaves you a note to meet him at the dugout. And lastly, Vault 813 is another stop while on the hunt for Paula Plumpkin and Vaultopolis. These are the last 6 numbered vaults of the Vault series, and they appear in Fallout Shelter. After these ones, only named vaults remain. Vault 819 is competing with Vault 404 for fame and notoriety from the New Boston Bugle. While helping the Brotherhood of Steel, you clear out the ghouls of Vault 840. In doing so, they make you an honorary knight of the Brotherhood of Steel. Vault 850's Overseer is a dog. After helping the Vault with their ghoul problem, the Overseer dog leaves his role to join you at your vault instead. You go to Vault 899 looking for Bigsby the dog. The Overseer tells you that Bigsby and their salvage team went to a Tomatoys warehouse. While following the trail of Paula Plumpkin and Vaultopolis, you come across the Raiders of 909. And lastly, you go searching in Vault 923 for a Radscorpion egg to make a Radscorpion egg omelet. Sounds delish. So from here on out, we only have named vaults left. The first of our named vaults, Vault-Tec Among the Stars, was a demonstration vault located in the galactic zone of Nuka World. The attraction would showcase and exhibit technology that could be used to colonize other planets. The Vault-Tec sales staff on site were also instructed to try and sell spots in the actual Fallout Shelter vaults around the US. In addition to the attraction being employed to sell spots in their Fallout Shelters, Vault-Tec would also perform experiments on visitors and staff alike. In total, 5 experiments were performed. The first used radiation scrubbers to emit an electromagnetic field that would cause interference in brainwave patterns of the subjects. The second used specific radio frequencies to try and implant subliminal suggestions on the subjects. The third used modified flora to release a pheromone-like airborne toxin to induce a type of hypnosis. The fourth used emissions of low-dose radiation to induce extreme fatigue. And the fifth and final experiment was to use experiments 1 to 4 on the staff to test long-term effects. The experiments on the staff were detrimental, as when one of the staff, Langston, approached another, Gruner, about the end of the world, Gruner had thought he'd gone mad and shot him before turning the gun on himself. Just because we're finished with numbered vaults doesn't mean we're done with cut content. The only info on the Vault of Burkittsville is from terminal entries at Hamilton's Hideaway that were cut from the final game. The terminal entries were supposed to give some info about happenings shortly after the Great War. One entry reads, February 14th, 2078. Frank's in bad shape. Arms and face are all burned up. He's got a lot of blisters that look infected. He went through hell out there, hardly anybody alive, and those he met almost did him in. He tried getting into a vault near Burkittsville. They wouldn't open up, and he was almost killed in an ambush on his way out of there. He said those folks wore skins of men. Cannibal bastards must just wait for their next meal to come looking for help at the vault. Frank steered clear of them and headed straight here after that. He's been on his feet for weeks. One sentence in a cut terminal. Is the Burkittsville Vault the champion of vaults with the least amount of info? Located inside the Museum of Technology, the demonstration vault, like Nuka Worlds Among the Stars, was a vault mock-up to showcase Vault-Tec technology to the visitors of the museum. The exhibit, located on the second floor, serves as an example of what vault life would be like. It consists of a long hallway with windows that show off various rooms of a standard vault. A bedroom, kitchen, and classroom appear in the exhibit. And that's it for the demo vault at the Museum of Technology. Oh, and if you take a close look, the vault door has the number 106, just a neat little reference to another vault in Fallout 3. The Los Angeles Vault was the first vault created by Vault-Tec. It was used to persuade the federal government into accepting Vault-Tec's bid for Project Safehouse. The federal government chose Vault-Tec as the company to design and construct over 100 Fallout shelters across the United States. The prototype was fully functional, however its initial design would vary from other constructed vaults. As a working vault, it housed dwellers during the Great War. Years later, when it was deemed safe, these dwellers would go their separate ways. Some formed the settlement of Adidam, others would explore the wastes. Eventually, the Master's scouts would discover the location of the LA Vault. The Master would relocate to the Vault, integrating himself into its systems. Merging with the Vault's computer would provide the Master a wealth of information, most notably the location of other vaults. The LA Vault would serve as the Master's headquarters until a certain somebody decided otherwise. How crazy is it that the last 4 vaults have been prototype or demonstration vaults? Isn't that just absolutely wild and unimaginable? Well, let's add another. This vault appears in the absolute mess of a game, Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Everyone remembers this 2004 action RPG for the PS2 and Xbox, right? If you haven't heard of it before, I'm sorry. The vault prototype serves as the proof of concept vault for another vault that will make an appearance shortly. In-game, it's known as the Brotherhood of Steel Automated Training Center and serves as the main base of operations for the Texas Brotherhood of Steel chapter. In the game, one of the playable characters, Nadia, completes the training course as she's guided by a hologram of a Brotherhood of Steel paladin. Not gonna lie, this game just makes me sad and is a solid reminder that Interplay was lost with the Fallout IP. A few months after the game's release, Interplay would auction off the Fallout license, allowing Bethesda Entertainment to make 3 Fallout games, and 3 years later, Interplay would sell the IP entirely. We can't escape Fallout Shelter that easily. The R41D is the last vault from Fallout Shelter. As this vault is only part of one quest, there isn't too much to say about it unfortunately. A quick one here it seems. The R41D or Raid Vault is a brand new vault to the Wasteland, and it's run by raiders. Yippee! As you clear through the vault, you'll eventually come to the Overseer, who's really just a raider boss. Confronting them, they admit that vault life isn't really made for them, and that it seems like they've attracted the wrong kind of people to it. Instead of a fight, they ask to join your vault instead. Not a whole lot to it, but that's the end of Fallout Shelter vaults. The secret vault was constructed underneath the city of Los, Texas. The vault was designed as Vault-Tec's private vault where high-ranking employees could survive the Great War and continue their scientific studies in secret, separate from Enclave oversight. The vault serves as a major research hub and even houses a special version of the forced evolutionary virus. The secret vault worked on other projects as well: robotic systems, electrical weapons, restoration of organic tissue after mutation, and their own Tesla power armor model. Their time in the vault went well until a civil war broke out between Vault-Tec scientists and the Chief of Security, who believed that their FEV tests on living subjects was evil. The fighting led to an explosion which created some species of radroaches and deathclaws. Their Zack supercomputer, named Calyx, suffered a malfunction and lost control of the security robots. The fighting led to a major division in the people of the vault, creating many sub-factions, all living separately but still inside the secret vault. Through the events of Fallout Brotherhood of Steel's story, the secret vault is eventually destroyed by the Initiate, as former Unity commander Addis attempts to repurpose the vault to create a better super mutant army. The unfinished vault, also known as Fake Vault 13 in Fallout 2, is just a small cave. However, there are some signs of construction indicated that it was just never finished before the Great War. The cave itself is identical to the cave that the real Vault 13 is in. As the Chosen One looks for Vault 13, they might meet a shady lad in New California Republic who will sell you a map for 1,000 NCR dollars to Vault 13, but alas, you've been duped. The map only leads you to the unfinished vault. Located in Vault-Tec University, the Vtu Simulation Vault connects the other buildings on the campus. The training vault would offer a way for the university's students to fully immerse themselves in the vault lifestyle, providing knowledge on standard vault systems. The simulation vault would mimic the experience of a real one, including experiments. Overseer candidates, as part of their program, were expected to provide experiment proposals and implement them during trial runs. And in typical Vault-Tec fashion, the data from these trials were collected for part of their societal preservation program. The final test was proposed by student Drew Collingsworth, who wanted to replace regular food with food paste. The dean of the school thought this was a bit uninspired and wanted to test the willpower of the general population as they react to deaths caused by food supply. Unbeknownst to Drew, the dean added an arterial plaquing agent to the paste. On October 15, 2077, the trial would begin with a duration of 4 weeks. When the Great War began, the trial would continue as normal until on October 26th, a maintenance staff died from the paste. Drew's fear of the dean sabotaging his experiment was confirmed, and on October 31st, the dwellers, unaware of the sabotage, misguidedly rebelled against Drew. When Drew could offer no solution to the dwellers, and also was unable to open the vault doors, like the doors, the fate of Drew and the dwellers was sealed. I've mentioned this vault on my page a couple times now. The White Spring Congressional Bunker was designed as the primary headquarters of the Appalachian Enclave. Funded by the Department of Agriculture's budget and under the supervision of Secretary Thomas Eckert, the The bunker would house members of Congress in the event of nuclear disaster. The facility was able to communicate with other Enclave hubs across the United States, namely Raven Rock and the Enclave oil rig. The bunker was fitted with a support satellite known as the Kovac Muldoon platform. In addition to the orbital support, the bunker was also installed with an AI, Modus, to oversee the facility. I've mentioned much of this in my Thomas Eckert extended lore video, but when the Great War happened and communication with the other Enclave branches was lost, Eckert took it upon himself to take command of the bunker, eliminating anyone who opposed him. His thirst for power and revenge against China led to many extreme actions in hopes of gaining access to the area's nuclear arsenal, the production and release of Liberator robots, the creation of super mutants, and the release of the Scorch Beast Queen. During this time, Eckert's Enclave split. A group led by General Ellen Santiago rebelled against Eckert, blowing up part of Modus's memory systems. The damaged AI would retaliate, destroying the weapons lab and releasing a deadly toxin into the ventilation systems. Modus would seal the bunker, dooming all inside. Modus would remain alone for years, quietly repairing the facility, until a certain someone discovered the bunker while following a lead from Senator Blackwell. While the White Spring Congressional Bunker was the last heavy lore entry into the Vault series, I thought it would be nice to make a final wrap-up. Started early November, I created one short a day detailing every Fallout Vault in any Fallout licensed media. And now today, I can say that we're finally finished with the vaults, and not only that, we have this big compilation video that's going out. Unless some new DLC comes out, or 76 gets an update, or Fallout 5 releases in like 10 years, there won't be any more vaults to cover. So to cap this video off, there's only one last entry to the list, and that's Vault 000 to 999. The truly last Fallout Shelter Vault. This vault is the player's vault, it's your vault. You get to be the overseer, and as such, you have absolute power over it. You choose who from the Wasteland to accept as a new dweller, and who to reject. You choose where these folks work, you choose and design the layout of your vault, and send dwellers out on quests. Finally, there you go. To date, that is every Fallout Vault explained.